I am going to tell you what I thought when I first saw my wife, and you are going to think less of me for it. That is correct. You should. It was at the altar. I had not met her. I had seen one photograph, taken from her right side by somebody who knew what they were doing, and I had signed the agreement on the strength of it. She came up that aisle in front of 200 people, and I looked at her, and here is the sentence that went through my head. At least it is only paper. That is what I thought. A marriage on paper, an alliance on paper. 4 years, then a quiet arrangement, and we would both go on. I thought it the way you think about a bill you have agreed to pay. My name is Nam Chan Wook. I am 40 years old and I run what my father ran. Her name is Han Kechi. Her father was Han Deok Soo, and if you know that name, then you already understand why the wedding happened at all. Everybody called her the ugliest daughter, not behind her back. That is the part I want you to understand before anything else. They said it in front of her, at her own engagement dinner, and one of her sisters laughed, and her father did not stop it. There is a burn scar that runs from her left temple down across her jaw and into her collar. It came from a fire 5 years ago. The family called that fire an accident for exactly as long as it was useful to them. 200 people were in that hall. I have counted since. I want to be precise because it turns out to be the entire story. Not one of them looked at her, not her father, not her sisters, not the priest who found somewhere over her shoulder, not the men I brought, who are paid to look at everything, not me. 200 people in a room, and every single one of us looked slightly away, and we all thought we were being kind. That night she was at the desk in the room they had given us, still in the dress, taking her shoes off. She did not flinch. She did not cover anything. She said, without turning round, that there had been a man at the third table on the left. 2 questions sit under all of it. How does a woman nobody has looked at in 5 years come to know more about a room than the man who owns it? And what happens to a family that spends 5 years telling everybody their daughter is not worth looking at, when it turns out she has been looking at them? Stay, I will tell it properly, including the parts where I am not the good one. The agreement took 9 weeks to write, and about 4 minutes to explain. Han Deok-soo had roots I wanted, and I had a name he needed on a piece of paper. Neither of us liked the other. That is not unusual, and it is not important. What mattered was that both sides needed a marriage, and Han Deok-soo had 3 daughters, and he offered me the 3rd one. I did not ask why the 3rd one. I want to be accurate about that. I did not ask, and I have thought since about how much of what followed sits on that one piece of not asking. My people brought me a file. There was a photograph in it. She was standing at some family function with her head turned, and she was smiling slightly, and the whole of the left side of her was out of the frame. I signed it on a Tuesday. The ceremony was in the hall at the Han house because Han Deok-soo wanted the photographs. 200 guests, every family that mattered on that side of the river. She came up the aisle alone. That was the first strange thing, and I did not notice it at the time. Her father was already at the front talking to somebody, and 200 people did the thing. I have been in rooms my whole life. I know what a room does. It flinches or it goes quiet, or it leans in. This one did none of that. This one performed a very smooth, very well-mannered act of not seeing, all at once, the way a flock turns. Eyes went to the flowers, to the candles, to the middle distance just past her shoulder. I did it too. I stood at the front of that hall and looked at a point about 4 inches to the left of my wife's head. I held it there for the length of a wedding ceremony. I told myself it was tact. It was not tact. I have had time to work out what it was. It was that looking would have made her a person, and if she was a person, then I had just bought one. At the dinner afterward, somebody at the second table said it. Not quietly, not cruelly even, which was somehow worse. In the tone people use for a thing everybody already knows. Well, the man said, he got the ugly one. There was a small laugh. It moved down the table and it stopped, and then the conversation went on. I looked at her. It was the first time all day she had heard it. There was no possible way she had not heard it, and she was looking directly at the man who had said it, and she was not upset. She was doing something else with her face that I did not have a word for at the time. She was filing him. I have since learned exactly what that expression is, because I have seen it about 40 times, and it is the single most useful thing in my life. But that night I did not know. I thought she was being brave. She was working. The room they had given us was on the second floor. I went up at about 1 in the morning. I want to be honest about what I was expecting, that she would be in the bathroom a long time, that there would be an awkward conversation, that we would both lie there being polite about it. She was at the desk. Still in the dress, she had one shoe off and was working on the other. She did not stand up when I came in. Nobody had done that to me in about 11 years. There was a man at the third table on the left, she said. I stopped with my hand still on the door. I am sorry. Third table, left side. The seat with its back to the window, which is the seat you take when you want the room in front of you and nothing behind you. She got the second shoe off and set it down. He came in at 7:40. He signed the book as Ko Young Min. He is not Ko Young Min. Who is he? 2 years ago, he was at my sister Soo Yeon's engagement dinner. He was on the terrace for most of it. He was introduced to me as Bai Sang-jun, and he was somebody's accountant. She finally turned round in the chair. Tonight he came in with your people. The room got very quiet. You are certain? Yes, 2 years is a long time. He has cut his hair, gained about 6 kilos and started wearing glasses that he does not need, she said. The glasses are the reason I am certain. A man who has needed glasses for years puts them on without thinking. He touches his face first. I stood in the doorway of my own wedding night and looked at my wife properly for the first time. How do you know all of that? And she said the thing that I have not stopped thinking about since. Because nobody looks at me, she said. Do you have any idea how much you can see if nobody ever looks back? I had it checked that night. It took my people until 4:30 in the morning. She was right about the name. She was right about the engagement dinner 2 years ago, which took a great deal longer to establish because nobody had photographed the terrace. She was right about the glasses. I came back up at 5 with a cup of coffee I had made myself, which I had not done in a decade, and she was awake and out of the dress and sitting in a chair by the window. He works for Ryu, I said. I do not know who that is. You would not. That is rather the point. I gave her the coffee. He has been inside my organization for 11 months under a name we checked. And you found him in 90 minutes at a wedding you did not want to be at. She drank the coffee. She did not look pleased with herself, which I noticed. Is that the sort of thing you needed? She said. Miss Han, you may as well use my name. We are married. Nkechi. It was the first time I had said it out loud. That is the sort of thing that I pay 11 people to do, and none of them have done it in 11 months. I tested her the next day because I am the kind of man who tests things, and because I did not want to believe it. I put 10 photographs on the table, my own people, men I have known for 9 years, some of them since we were boys. Tell me what has changed. She went through them at the speed of somebody dealing cards. This one has stopped drinking. 3 or 4 months. His face has come down around the eyes. Next, this one is unwell, or he is very worried. He has lost weight from his neck and not from anywhere else. Next, this one has started sleeping somewhere different. His collars are wrong. Somebody else is doing his washing, and they are using too much starch. She got to the 8th. This one, she said and stopped. What? He is frightened of somebody in the room when this was taken. She turned it toward me. Look at his shoulders. Look at where his weight is. I looked. I could not see it. I still cannot, and I have the photograph. But he was, and 8 weeks later I found out why. And if she had not said that sentence, I would have found out in a much worse way. Nkechi, I sat back. I have looked at these men every day for 9 years. Yes, I could not have told you one of those things. No, she said. Nobody could. Nobody knows what anybody looks like. She squared the photographs and pushed them back across the table. Looking is a thing you have to be given time for. Nobody ever gave me anything else. She told me about the first part of it that week, and it was not the part I expected. I had assumed the scar was where it started. It was not. It was where it became convenient. Her mother was Nigerian. She had come to Seoul at 24. She had married Han Deok-soo, and she died when Nkechi was 9. There are 2 daughters from before. Soo Yeon and Jia. They look like their father. Nkechi does not look like anybody in that house. I was the ugly one at 6, she said. Nobody had to explain why. Everybody just knew, the way everybody knows the rules of a house. She said it without any weight on it at all, which was worse. It was not a decision, it was more like weather. And the fire. The fire came when I was 26. She touched the edge of her own jaw briefly and took her hand away. And what I remember most about afterward is not the pain. It is that the house relaxed. Relaxed. They had been calling me the ugly one for 20 years with nothing to point at. Now there was something to point at. She looked at me steadily. Do you understand? It was a relief to them. They finally had a reason that other people would accept. I did not say anything for a while. I am one of those people, I said. I accepted it. Yes, she said. You did. She did not let me off it. In 4 years, she has never once let me off anything, and it is the reason I am still alive. I asked her, after that, whether she would keep doing it, naming faces, working, and she did not answer. She asked me a question instead. Why did you marry me? I could have handled that badly. I want it on the record that I considered handling it badly, because the honest answer was ugly, and I am a man who has spent his life managing what people know. Because your father had roots I wanted, I said, and because he offered me a daughter, and I did not ask which one or why. I thought you were the price. I made myself finish it. I looked at you in that hall, and I thought that at least it was only paper. She took that in. She did not flinch at it either, and I have come to understand that she does not flinch at true things, only at kind lies. Thank you, she said. For what? For not saying something else? Then she set her terms, and they were not about money. I will tell you what I see, she said. On one condition. When I give you a name, you tell me what is going to happen to that name. Before it happens. If I do not like it, I still give you the name, and you still tell me. I am not going to be a woman who points at people and then looks away. That is not how anyone in my position works. I know, she said. That is why I am asking. I agreed to it. I have kept it, including twice when keeping it cost me a great deal. 3 weeks later, we were walking through the east corridor of my own house, and she stopped. It was not dramatic. She simply stopped walking in the middle of a sentence and stood there. There were 4 of my men at the far end by the service door. One of them glanced up and did what everybody does, and looked back down at nothing. Nkechi, the second from the left, she said. Her voice had gone completely flat. Who is he? Quack. He has been with us 6 years. Why? She was quiet for long enough that I put my hand on her arm. Because he was at my father's house on the night of the fire, she said. He was standing in the garden. I saw him through the window about 4 minutes before it started. If you are still with me, tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Now let me tell you about the fire, because the fire was not an accident. It took 4 months, and it was almost entirely paperwork. I want to say that plainly, because people who hear this story assume there was a night with cars and men, and a door coming off its hinges. There was not. There was a woman with a very good memory, a room, and about 900 photographs. Here is what we found. The fire started in the east wing of the Han house at 11 at night, in a room where Nkechi worked. It was recorded as an electrical fault. The insurance was settled quietly, and the report was never contested, because the person who would have contested it was in a hospital. Quack had been in the garden. Quack had come to me 11 months later with a clean history that had been arranged by somebody. And in the 8 months before the fire, Nkechi had done a thing that nobody in that house had thought about, because nobody in that house thought about her at all. She had started her father who was coming to his home, not accusing, not investigating. She was a daughter with nothing to do. She would mention, over dinner, that the man from the shipping office had also been at a funeral in Daegu, or that the new driver had been somebody else's driver 2 years before. She thought she was being useful. I thought he would be pleased, she told me. She was very calm about it. She is always very calm about the worst things. I had worked out that I could do something. I wanted him to know. Han Deok-soo was at that time in the middle of arrangements with 4 separate parties who each believed they were the only one. His daughter had just demonstrated that she could put any 2 of them in the same room from memory. I asked her once whether she thought her father had meant her to die. She thought about it properly, the way she thinks about everything. No, she said. That would have raised questions, and he would have had to feel something. Then what? He needed me not worth looking at. She said it without any drama at all. Those are 2 different jobs, and the second one is much cheaper. He did not need me dead. He needed everybody in his world to have a reason to slide their eyes past me. She shrugged very slightly, and it worked for 5 years. It worked so well that he sold me to you as damaged goods and you paid for it. I did? Yes. It finished in a room with 11 people in it, and my wife did all of it sitting down. The Alliance Council met 4 times a year. Han Deok-soo had sat on it for 19 years, and everybody there owed him something, which is exactly why it had to be done in that room and not in a courtroom. Nkechi went through 900 photographs beforehand. Event photographs, guest books, security stills, funerals, openings, 3 weddings, and then she named faces. She did it for 50 minutes without raising her voice, in the flat, unhurried tone of somebody reading out a stock list. This man was here on this date when the record says he was in Busan. This man attended 2 events for 2 families who were at that time at war, 11 days apart. This man has used 3 names in front of me, and I can tell you which order. She named 19 people. 14 of them were Han Deok-soo's. Nobody in that room could contest her, because the photographs were their own photographs, from their own events, and every one of them had walked past her at some point and not looked. Her father sat through it. He did not interrupt. I watched him understand, at about minute 20, that he was finished, and that the thing finishing him was the daughter he had spent 5 years describing as not worth the trouble of looking at. At the end, he said one thing to her. It was not an apology. "You were always sharp," he said. And Nkechi said, "You knew that. That was the problem. Everything went where it needed to go. The council removed him. The roots went elsewhere. What was left went to the prosecutors with 4 months of documents attached, and it is still going, and it is extremely boring, which is what justice mostly is." Soo-yeon came to the house once afterward. She stood in the hall and said that she had not known. "You knew what they called me," Nkechi said. Soo-yeon did not answer that. "That is what I thought," Nkechi said, and she was not cruel about it, and she did not invite her to stay either. "It is 4 years now. I have told you what I thought when I first saw her. I said you would think less of me, and I meant it. And I have not gone back and softened it, because softening it would be the same act as looking 4 inches to the left of her head. Here is what I want to tell you instead. Last month, she was in the kitchen arguing with somebody on the phone about a delivery, and she touched the left side of her jaw with 2 fingers, briefly, the way she does. I said, 'Who are you protecting?' She turned round. 'What? You touch your jaw when you are about to protect somebody. You have done it about 40 times since the wedding.' I put the coffee down. 4 of those were for your sister who does not deserve it." She looked at me for a long moment. "How long have you known that?" "About 3 years. You never said." "No," I said. "I have been practicing. Before you go, here is what I want to know. Has anybody ever looked straight at you when everybody else looked away? Tell me down below." I never tell her she is beautiful. She would not believe it from me. And she is right not to, because I did not earn the right to that sentence, and I am not sure it is the sentence that matters. What I tell her is what I saw. 200 people were in that hall, every family that mattered, and every single one of us performed the same small, well-mannered act of looking away and congratulated ourselves on our manners. She was the only person in that room doing her job.